Imagine this, a witch from the Puritan era, condemned and drowned in the dead of night, her children ripped from her arms. Legend whispers of a dark prophecy, her return to haunt the descendants of her persecutors. Switch scene to modern times where we meet Sarah, who's just been fished out of the ocean along with debris from a mysterious sailboat. Fast forward a bit, and we find Sarah, slightly waterlogged but safe, under the glaring lights of a police interrogation room. Detective Clarkson, with all the subtlety of a hammer, prods her for details. "Your kids are fine, now spill the beans," he practically grunts. Sarah, battling waves of disbelief, admits that sometimes evil likes a scenic ride. Apparently, this time evil chose a boat. Refusing to believe her own tale, Sarah's pushed to narrate the day's hairy events. And snap, cut to 4 months earlier as the Coast Guard stumbles upon the ghostly Mary, an abandoned sailboat, setting the stage for our spooky adventure. Oh, buckle up for a maritime adventure like no other. In the thick of spontaneity, David, our helmsman with dreams bigger than his ferry, finds himself at a boat auction with his buddy Mike. Lo and behold, his eyes land on the Mary, a vessel that practically screams his name. Without a second thought, David whips out his wallet and makes her his own. Now, here's where the waves start to rock. David, brimming with excitement, invites his wife Sarah and their daughters, Lindsay and Mary, for the grand reveal. But hold the confetti, Sarah's not throwing cheers around. She's more concerned about the hefty price tag dangling from this new dream of his. Reality sinks in for David. Perhaps a family powwow was in order before diving wallet first into this watery venture. With a heavy heart and a lighter pocket, David admits to Sarah that maybe, just maybe, he should have charted the waters of family consent before setting his course. The turbulent seas of impulse buying, will they steer this family ship to treasure or trouble? Oh, the magnetic pull of the open seas. The moment David laid eyes on that boat, it was love at first sight. Talk about a nautical impulse buy. Sarah, initially not on board with the idea, finally gave in, and boy, was David over the moon. The very next day, it was all hands on deck. With the help of Mike and Tommy, who's currently dating Lindsay, by the way, they got that old ship shape again. You should have seen the splash they made at the launching ceremony, smashing a wine bottle like true sea dogs, celebrating the big refurb. As dusk fell, David dropped the bomb. They were setting sail for Bermuda come sunrise. But hold your seahorses. Jay, David's old boss, wades in with a storm cloud of warnings. "Bermuda's no pleasure cruise," he says, hinting the boat might be haunted and rambling about its last owners who vanished into thin air. Spooky, right? Despite Jay's doom and gloom, David's like, "Nope, we're doing this." But then, in the midst of their happy snaps in front of the ship, Tommy catches a mysterious flash of light. A shiver goes down his spine, but what does he do? Brushes it off like a champ. The fearless, or maybe just the reckless, adventures of sailing.
Imagine this. One evening, Sarah is tucking little Mary into bed when suddenly, a weird noise from outside. Spooky, right? Sarah tiptoes to the window and, what? A figure looking eerily like Mary outside? Talk about a mini heart attack. But hold on, it turns out it was all just a crazy dream. Phew. Fast forward to the next day, the family kicks off their Bermuda adventure. Ahoy, mateys. As they sail away, they're having a blast. Family time for the win. Later, Lindsay sidles up to Sarah, dinner ideas in tow, but also a bit worried about Jay's doom and gloom warnings about their trip. Sarah, cool as a cucumber, brushes it off. Jay? Oh, he probably had one too many. She laughs off, reassuring Lindsay they're in safe hands. But here's the kicker. Sarah peeks into Mary's room and discovers it's like a mini art gallery in there. Among all the kitty masterpieces, one peculiar portrait stands out. It's a mystery woman. Who could she be? That night, as the stars twinkle mischievously above, David is haunted by a nightmare that's as unsettling as a stormy sea.
Imagine this, David is jolted awake from a nightmare about a mysterious woman. As he tries to calm his nerves, he realizes the ship is wandering off course. He rushes to the deck and, who does he find? Tommy, standing there like he's just seen a ghost. David asks why the anchor is up, and Tommy cryptically replies, "She wants us to keep going." Suddenly, Tommy flips a switch and lunges at David. But, don't worry, David isn't just a pretty face, he dodges and weaves, escaping Tommy's clutches. Post-brawl, David decides it's high time Tommy visited a special institution on the Abaco Islands. David and Sarah, keeping the brawl under wraps, decide not to stir the family pot. But, oh boy, does this secret stir up a storm between them instead. Fast forward, and Detective Clarkson is grilling Sarah about her ties to Mike. Cool as a cucumber, Sarah tells him Mike was basically the kid brother she never asked for. David Clarkson throws a skeptical glance and makes it crystal clear that this is just intermission. The grilling will resume post-break. He tosses a bone of warning Sarah's way: if she ever wants a reunion with her daughters, her story better start checking out. Clarkson exits, and Sarah's gaze like lasers targets the camera. Meanwhile, our protagonist is minding her own business when, voila, a child saunters by. Must be Mary, she thinks. But as she nears a cabin, hello. Wet footprints sneak off towards a closet. Curiosity killed the cat, but hey, she's brave. She opens it, bam. Someone crams her inside and kapow, the door slams shut. Striking a match, she glimpses a woman, and boom, enter David, the ever-so-calm reality checker. They've been asleep for an hour, he soothes, suggesting her terrifying closet adventure was just a midnight snack dream. Cut to the next morning, our protagonist, tech whiz in action, is interrupted by a bit of girl chat. Mary's curious about a curious mark on Lindsay's neck. Lindsay, ever the mystery, brushes off the question and dives into her phone. Wonder who she's texting. Oh, you won't believe what unfolded next. So, there's Lindsay, minding her own business, when she feels a creepy tickle on her neck. Thinking it's Mary, she turns around, only to find absolutely no one. Then, in a plot twist, David drops a bombshell: the guy Lindsay was texting, Tommy, he's gone, took his own life that night. Talk about a mood dampener, right? Just when you think things couldn't get weirder, Mary, out of the blue, declares they forgot to cook dinner for her imaginary pal. Classic Mary, huh? But wait for it, she ups the ante by chucking a glass right at Lindsay's face. Talk about family drama. David's not having any of it and later busts Mary for a rather morbid drawing of a hangman. That room got chilly fast. Cut to the night, and there's our protagonist, heart pounding, as unknown forces jiggle the door handle. She flees to the bathroom for some sanctuary, but nope, the flickering lights and another door creeper. Absolutely not what she signed up for. Seeking solace, she braves it up to the deck, only to be greeted by the ethereal sound of her name being whispered through the wind, and wham! Out of nowhere, this guy Mike swoops in. What a night, huh?
Just in the nick of time, our hero swoops in to rescue a visibly shaken protagonist. In a dramatic twist, she suggests retreating to safer shores, but David, ever the stubborn one, argues they're in too deep, literally. Frustrations mount and tempers flare, leading to David storming off after a heated exchange. But the eerie doesn't stop there. Our protagonist hears a peculiar noise in the children's room, only to discover that Mary, the little adventurer, has pulled a disappearing act. Out of nowhere, a surprise attack sends our protagonist into a terrifying nightmare, from which she wakes up screaming. In comes David, playing the knight in shining armor, while Mary returns, showcasing a gap where her tooth once was, thanks to a mysterious lady's assistance. Curious about the uneasy dreams he might be harboring, our protagonist questions David, who remains tight-lipped, leaving the air thick with suspense. They both dig into the boat's sinister past, uncovering tales of previous owners who faced mysterious fates on similar ominous voyages. As dawn approaches, they're left wondering what Hamilton holds for them next. Can you feel the chill running down your spine? In a thrilling twist straight out of a spooky sea tale, David, playing captain, steers the haunted ship into the dreaded Bermuda area, despite Mike's uneasy course correction. Below deck, Sarah, our keen-eyed protagonist, is all agitated, unearthing evidence that this witchy escapade was a bad idea from the jump. She insists, backed by this J character's theories, that they've sailed straight into a ghostly trap. But David, ever the optimist, had visions of quality family bonding. Ghosts not invited.
Their fiery debate is cut short as Lindy, a little bundle of nerves, toddles over, clearly spooked. It turns out their floating family reunion is on the same doomed path as the cursed former owner. Spooky coincidence, or are they just following in ghostly footsteps? Stay tuned.
In a bone-chilling turn of events, Mary's icy touch sends David into high alert, urging Mike to send out a mayday. But alas, radio silence. Ascending to the deck, David's met with the sorry sight of tattered sails. But wait, plot twist. Mike goes rogue, lunging at David in a sudden betrayal. Fear not, for Sarah leaps into the fray, helping subdue the mutinous Mike, who's promptly locked away. As dawn breaks, the grim truth unfolds. Mike's turned saboteur, wrecking sails, draining fuel, and tossing their only means of communication overboard. Confronted by David, Mike's chilling confession spills. He's under a witch's sinister spell, convinced his doom is sealed unless he obeys her watery whims. Armed with a flare gun and nerves of steel, David hears a mysterious noise, only to spot a shadow lurking in the water. Meanwhile, back in the cabin, as Lindsay awakes, she's startled by none other than a boy named. In a gripping turn of events, Tommy Lindsay doesn't just follow, she leads the charge to the top deck. There, in a dark corner stands Tommy, who, in a shocking twist, tries to persuade Lindsay to take a fatal leap. Just as Lindsay teeters on the edge, who should swoop in but David, rescuing her in the nick of time. Sarah dashes up, ready to lend a hand, but suddenly, Mike bursts onto the scene with villainy on his mind, assaulting David with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer at a tea party.
Next thing you know, Sarah's all tied up with a front row seat to horror show 101 as Mike heaves David overboard. But hold your breath, David's not done yet. Just as Mike preps for round 2 with Sarah, she channels her inner escape artist and scrambles back onto the ship. A scuffle ensues, but Mike's upper hand doesn't last long. Out of nowhere, the presumed goner David reappears, harpoon gun in hand, and sends Mike into a deep-sea dive.
With the baddie out of the picture, Sarah dives below deck, frantically searching for her daughters, Lindsay and Mary. Amidst the chaos, the sweet sound of their voices leads her to a cabin. After unlocking their temporary prison, she bundles them into life jackets, sending them overboard to safety. As David steers the ship, our heroic Sarah is faced with one last horror, the witch. But it's curtains for David, leaving Sarah in a gutsy showdown.